Welcome to the information session for potential applicants to the competition for the National Center to Improve Faculty Capacity to Use Educational Technology in Special Education Personnel and Leadership Preparation Programs. This competition falls under the Educational Technology, Media, and Materials Program, which is a discretionary grant program under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, managed by the Office of Special Education Programs at the U.S. Department of Education. This information session will provide you with information about applying for this grant opportunity that was posted in the Federal Register on Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. I am Tina Diamond, a project officer at OSEP. Today, I will provide interested applicants with information regarding this grant competition. The assistance listing number is 84.327F, and the opportunity number in grants.gov is ED-grants-062525-002. I would like to go over some caveats before we begin this webinar. First, the intent of this presentation is to provide guidance only, and the information contained in this webinar provides a general summary of the information contained in the notice inviting applications and the application instructions. Therefore, it's important that all prospective applicants read the entire notice, application instructions, and any additional applicant resources available. In addition, applicants are encouraged to review the short course on writing competitive grant applications and an additional resource from the Department of Education's website on getting started with discretionary grant applications. Please be aware of application timelines. The notice inviting applications was published in the Federal Register on June 25th, 2025. All applications are due on Friday, July 25th, 2025, no later than 11:59 and 59 seconds in the evening. Note that this is Eastern Time, and applicants should determine the corresponding time in your time zone. I will discuss the implications of a late submission later in this session. The application instructions available in grants.gov contains information on how to apply. The application instructions include program and competition overview, timeline and general information, important dates, notification of intent to apply, which is optional, priority and requirements, and information about application forms and instructions for grants.gov applications. Please note that the application instructions include a link to the notice inviting application and links on how to submit an application in the grants.gov system. Please read the application instructions carefully. In this next section, I will go over the purpose of the Educational Technology, Media, and Materials Program and the 327F priority. I will review the eligible applicants, explain the number of anticipated awards, maximum funding levels, and the length of the project. The purpose of the Educational Technology, Media, and Materials Program for individuals with disabilities is to improve results for children with disabilities by promoting the development, demonstration, and use of technology, supporting educational activities designed to be of educational value in the classroom for children with disabilities, providing support for captioning and video description that is appropriate for use in the classroom, and providing accessible educational materials to children with disabilities in a timely manner. The purpose of this priority is to fund a cooperative agreement to establish and operate a national center to improve faculty capacity to use educational technology in special education personnel and leadership preparation programs. For the purposes of this priority, educational technology includes assistive technology devices and artificial intelligence. This project will support faculty at IHEs by improving their knowledge and use of educational technology and their capacity to sustain its use in special education personnel and leadership preparation programs. Eligible applicants under this priority include state educational agencies, local educational agencies, including public charter schools that are considered LEAs under state law, IHEs, other public agencies, private nonprofit organizations, freely associated states and outlying areas, Indian tribes or tribal organizations, and for-profit organizations. We anticipate one award, which will not exceed $700,000 for a single budget period of 12 months, with a total project period of 60 months. This program uses an unrestricted indirect cost rate and does not include any program-specific limitation on administrative expenses. All administrative expenses must be reasonable and necessary and conform to cost principles described in Title II of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 200, Subpart E of the Uniform Guidance. The next several slides will introduce definitions used for terminology in this notice. The term assistive technology device, or AT device, has the meaning set forth in 20 U.S. Code 1401. Any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially, off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of a child with a disability. The term does not include a medical device that is surgically implanted or the replacement of such device. The term artificial intelligence, or AI, has the meaning set forth in 15 U.S. Code 94013, a machine-based system that can, for a given set of human-defined objectives, make predictions, recommendations, or decisions influencing real or virtual environments. AI systems use machine and human-based inputs to perceive real and virtual environments, abstract such perceptions into models through analysis in an automated manner, and use model inference to formulate options for information or action. Evidence-based. For the purposes of this priority, evidence-based means the proposed project component is supported by one or more of strong evidence, moderate evidence, promising evidence, or evidence that demonstrates a rationale. See 34 CFR 77.1. The notice refers to three categories of technical assistance. First, universal general TA means TA and information provided to independent users through their own initiative, resulting in minimal interaction with the TA project staff and including one-time invited or offered conference presentations by TA project staff. This category of TA includes information or products such as newsletters, guidebooks, or research syntheses downloaded from a project's website by independent users. Brief communications by project staff with recipients, either by telephone or email, are also considered universal general TA. Next, targeted specialized TA means TA services based on needs common to multiple recipients and not extensively individualized. A relationship is established between the TA recipient and one or more of the TA project staff. This category of TA includes one-time labor-intensive events, such as facilitating strategic planning or hosting regional or national conferences. It can also include episodic, less labor-intensive events that extend over a period of time, such as facilitating a series of conference calls on a single or multiple topics that are designed around the needs of the recipients. Facilitating communities of practice can also be considered targeted specialized TA. The third category of technical assistance is intensive sustained TA, which means technical assistance services often provided on-site and requiring a stable, ongoing relationship between the TA project staff and the TA recipient. TA services are defined as negotiated series of activities designed to reach a valued outcome. This category of TA should result in changes to policy, program, practice, or operations that support increased recipient capacity or improved outcomes at one or more systems levels. Third-party evaluator. A third-party evaluator is an independent and impartial program evaluator who is contracted by the grantee to conduct an objective evaluation of the project. This evaluator must not have participated in the development or implementation of any project activities except for the evaluation activities, nor have any financial interest in the outcome of the evaluation. In this section, beginning on slide 18, I will review application information, including expected outcomes, application narrative, and selection criteria and requirements. Once again, this webinar provides a general summary of the information contained in the notice inviting applications and the application instructions. Please make sure to read the entire notice, application instructions, and any relevant information if you intend to apply. The center will have 5 expected outcomes that must be achieved. These are increased knowledge of faculty at IHEs about the range of educational technologies that can be used within special education personnel and leadership preparation programs. Increased capacity of faculty at IHEs to use a range of educational technologies within special education personnel and leadership preparation programs. Increased capacity of faculty within and across IHEs to establish and sustain professional learning networks related to the use of educational technologies within special education personnel and leadership preparation programs to keep up with technological innovations. Increased integration of educational technologies and practices throughout special education personnel and leadership preparation programs, and increased number of special education personnel and leadership preparation program graduates who enter the field well prepared to integrate educational technologies and innovative technology practices, especially evidence-based technology and practices that improve literacy outcomes to better serve children with disabilities and their families. The notice lays out how the application narrative should be divided into 5 sections. These section headings are identical to the 5 categories of selection criteria used by reviewers to evaluate each application. I will go over the narrative sections and selection criteria and point out in general terms what should be addressed in each section of the narrative and how reviewers will consider each of the selection criteria. Please read the notice carefully since the information contained in the notice is significantly more detailed. The narrative section of the significance should describe in the narrative section how the proposed project will address faculty needs at IHEs to identify, select, use, and integrate educational technology into their special education and leadership preparation programs. Please read the significant section of the NIA for specific expectations of what to include in this section, such as information on the types of educational technology that can be used in special education personnel and leadership preparation programs that support both in-person and distance learning, information on the extent to which special education personnel and leadership preparation programs have currently integrated educational technology, including AT, into their courses and content, and the identification of systemic barriers, gaps, or challenges to integrating educational technology in special education personnel and leadership preparation programs. Reviewers will score the significance of the proposed projects between 0 and 15 points. In determining the significance of the proposed project, the Secretary considers the following factors. 1, the extent to which the specific nature and magnitude of gaps or challenges are identified, and the extent to which these gaps or challenges will be addressed by the services, supports, infrastructure, or opportunities described in the proposed project. 2, the extent to which the resources, tools, and implementation lessons of the proposed project will be disseminated in ways to the target population and local community that will enable them and others, including practitioners, researchers, education leaders, and partners, to implement similar strategies. Slide 22 relates to the quality of project design. This section of the application narrative should address how the proposed project will, 1, achieve its goals and objectives and intended outcomes, 2, use a conceptual framework to develop project plans and activities describing any underlying concepts, assumptions, expectations, beliefs, or theories, as well as the presumed relationships or linkages among these variables and any empirical support for this framework. 3, be based on current research and make use of evidence-based practices on educational technology for special education personnel and leadership preparation programs. 4, develop products and provide TA services that are of high quality and sufficient intensity and duration to achieve the intended outcomes of the project. Please read the quality of project design section of the NIA for specific expectations of what to include in the project design section of your application. This slide lists general information about what the project must accomplish. However, more detailed information on what to include in each of the 4 sections is included in the notice. When evaluating applications for quality of project design worth up to 30 points, reviewers will consider the following factors: the extent to which the goals, objectives, and outcomes to be achieved by the proposed project are clearly specified, measurable, and ambitious, yet achievable within the project period and aligned with the purposes of the grant program. The quality of the logic model or other conceptual framework underlying the proposed project, including how inputs are related to outcomes. The extent to which the services will be provided by the proposed project reflect up-to-date knowledge and an evidence-based project component. The extent to which the training or professional development services to be provided by the proposed project are of sufficient quality, intensity, and duration to build recipient and project capacity in ways that lead to improvements in practice among the recipients of those services, and the extent to which the services to be provided by the proposed project involve the use of efficient strategies, including the use of technology as appropriate and the leveraging of non-project resources. Slide 24 relates to the quality of a proposed project's evaluation or other evidence building. This portion of the narrative should describe how the project will develop an evaluation plan in consultation with and to be implemented by a third-party evaluator. The plan must articulate formative and summative evaluation questions across all planned levels of TA, including important process and outcome evaluation questions. These questions must be related to the project's proposed logic model required under paragraph B2II. 2, describe how progress in and fidelity of implementation, as well as project outcomes, will be measured to answer the evaluation questions. In measuring progress of implementation across all levels of TA, the plan should include criteria for determining the extent to which the project's products and services reached intended recipients, data, including feedback from recipients on how recipients use the products and services, and the impact of the project's products and services. The plan should also specify sources for data and measures and instruments appropriate to the evaluation questions, including information on reliability and validity of the measures and associated instruments where appropriate. Describe strategies for analyzing data and how data collected as part of this plan will be used to inform and improve service delivery over the course of the project and to refine the proposed logic model and evaluation plan, including subsequent data collection. Provide a timeline for conducting the evaluation and include staff assignments for completing the plan. The timeline must indicate that the data will be available annually for the annual performance report, and dedicate sufficient funds in each budget year to cover the costs of developing or refining the evaluation plan in consultation with a third-party evaluator, as well as the costs associated with the implementation of the evaluation plan by the third-party evaluator. Reviewers will score the quality of project evaluation between 0 and 20 points. In determining the quality of the proposed project evaluation, the Secretary considers the following factors. 1, the extent to which the methods of evaluation or other evidence building are thorough, feasible, relevant, and appropriate to the goals, objectives, and outcomes of the proposed project. 2, the extent to which the methods of evaluation or other evidence building are designed to measure the fidelity of implementation of the project. 3, the extent to which the methods of evaluation or other evidence building will provide performance feedback and provide formative, diagnostic, or interim data that is a periodic assessment of progress toward achieving intended outcomes. 4, the extent to which the methods of evaluation or other evidence building include the use of objective performance measures that are clearly related to the intended outcomes of the project and will produce quality data that are quantitative and qualitative. And 5, the extent to which the evaluation plan includes a dissemination strategy that is likely to promote others learning from the project. Slide 26 includes information on how applicants should demonstrate that they have adequate resources to carry out the proposed project. In this section of the narrative, applicants should demonstrate how 1, the proposed project will make positive efforts to employ and advance in employment qualified individuals with disabilities. 2, the applicant and any key partners have adequate resources to carry out the proposed activities. 3, the applicant will ensure adequacy of resources for the proposed project and the quality of the personnel who carry out the proposed project by addressing all aspects of the selection criteria for this section. 4, the proposed project project will have processes, resources, and funds in place to provide equitable access for project staff, contractors, and partners who require digital accessibility accommodations. And 5, the proposed costs are reasonable in relation to the anticipated results and benefits, and funds will be spent in a way that increases their efficiency and cost effectiveness, including by reducing waste or achieving better outcomes. Reviewers will score the adequacy of resources and the quality. Reviewers will score the adequacy of resources between 0 and 20 points. In determining the adequacy of resources and quality of personnel, the Secretary will consider the following factors. 1, qualifications, including relevant training and experience of project consultants or subcontractors. 2, the extent to which the evaluator has the qualifications, including the relevant training, experience, and independence required to conduct an evaluation of the proposed project, including experience conducting evaluations of similar methodology as proposed and with evaluations for the proposed population and setting. 3, the adequacy of support for the project, including facilities, equipment, supplies, and other resources from the applicant or the lead applicant organization. 4, the relevance and demonstrated commitment of each partner in the proposed project to the implementation and success of the project. And 5, the extent to which the budget is adequate to support the proposed project and the costs are reasonable in relation to the objectives, design, and potential significance of the proposed project. Slide 28 relates to the quality of the management plan for proposed projects. In this section, the application narrative should address how the proposed project key personnel, consultants, and subcontractors have the qualifications and experience to carry out the proposed activities and achieve the project's intended outcomes. 2, the proposed project will implement project management techniques to ensure the project's intended outcomes will be achieved on time and within budget. To address this requirement, the applicant must describe how the management plan for the proposed project addresses all aspects of the selection criteria for this section. And 3, the proposed management plan will ensure that the products and services provided are of high quality, relevant, and useful to recipients. Reviewers will score the quality of the management plan between 0 and 15 points, taking into consideration the following factors. First, the feasibility of the management plan to achieve project objectives and goals on time and within budget, including clearly defined responsibilities, timelines, and milestones for accomplishing project tasks. Next, the extent to which the time commitments of the project director and principal investigator and any other key project personnel are appropriate and adequate to meet the objectives of the proposed project. Next, the extent to which the key personnel in the project, when hired, have the qualifications required for the proposed project, including formal training or work experience in fields related to the objectives of the project, and represent or have lived experiences of the target population. And finally, the adequacy of mechanisms for ensuring high quality and accessible products and services from the proposed project for the target population. The external reviewers will judge and score the quality of the application using selection criteria. Each application can receive up to a total of 100 points. As I mentioned on the previous slides, the significance of the project can be scored up to 15 points, quality of project design up to 30 points, quality of the project evaluation or other evidence building, up to 20 points, adequacy of resources, up to 20 points, and quality of the management plan, up to 15 points. The notice inviting applications and the application instructions contain more details about the narrative requirements and selection criteria. Applicants are strongly encouraged to read these carefully when preparing the application narrative. Application requirements and assurances. Applicants must include in Appendix A a personnel loading chart and timeline as applicable to illustrate the management plan described in the narrative. Must include a budget for attendance at the following: a 1.5 day kickoff meeting in Washington, D.C. after receipt of the award, and an annual planning meeting in Washington, D.C. with the OSEP project officer and other relevant staff during each subsequent year of the project period. Also, a 2-day project directors conference in Washington, D.C. during each year of the project period, and 2 annual 2-day trips to attend department briefings, department-sponsored conferences, and other meetings as requested by OSEP. Provide assurance that the project will reallocate unused travel funds no later than the end of the third quarter if the kickoff or planning meetings are conducted virtually, or include in the budget a line item for an annual set-aside of 5% of the grant's amount to support emerging needs that are consistent with the proposed project's intended outcomes, as those needs are identified in consultation with and approved by the OSEP project officer. With approval from the OSEP project officer, the project must reallocate any remaining funds from this annual set-aside no later than the end of the third quarter of each budget period. Additional application requirements and assurances. Applicants must provide an assurance that the project will engage doctoral students or postdoctoral fellows in the project to increase the number of future leaders in the field who are knowledgeable about integration of educational technology in special education personnel and leadership preparation programs. Also, must ensure that annual project progress toward meeting project goals is posted on the project website, and include in Appendix A an assurance to assist OSEP with the transfer of pertinent resources and products and maintain the continuity of services to states during the transition to a new award at the end of this award period as appropriate. Subgrants and contracts. Sometimes applicants have questions about the permissibility of subgrants and contracts. Under this award, a grantee may award subgrants to specific types of entities to directly carry out project activities described in its application. Please refer to 34 CFR 75.708, paragraph B and paragraph C. In this section, beginning on slide 35, I will cover some general information related to submitting an application. Once again, please refer to the notice for additional information. Please note that applications must be submitted electronically in the grants.gov system. See grants.gov submission procedures and tips for applicants included in the application instructions. We strongly recommend that you do not wait until the last day to submit your application. Grants.gov will put a date and time stamp on your application and then process it after it is fully uploaded. The time it takes to upload an application will vary depending on a number of factors, including the size of the application and the speed of your internet connection. and the time it takes grants.gov to process the application will vary as well. If grants.gov rejects your application, you will need to resubmit successfully to grants.gov before 11:59 and 59 seconds p.m. Eastern Time on the deadline date. If there are reasons why an applicant cannot submit using grants.gov, the applicant must follow the information contained in the application instructions. Applications cannot be submitted by email, and they must be submitted prior to the deadline of 11:59 and 59 seconds p.m. on Friday, July 25th. We strongly encourage applicants to submit all narratives and attachments in PDF read-only format to ensure narratives and attachments are formatted to ensure accessibility for reviewers. Submission tips. In order to make sure that the application is submitted on time and correctly, please register as early as possible in grants.gov and start the application process. Do not wait until you have the application ready to register. Grants.gov will create a workspace for applicants to submit the pieces of the application over time. If you are already registered in the system for award management, make sure your registration is current. Submit early, a day or more in advance if possible. Should there be any problems with the grants.gov system, submitting early will allow you time to correct the problem and resubmit before the deadline. Verify that the submission is okay. Grants.gov will send applicants notification that the submission was on time and validated. So applicants should make sure that they receive that confirmation and not assume that the submission was successful. On slide 37, we have some additional advice for submitting an application. Pay attention to the maximum funding levels for the grant as contained in the notice. An award will not be made for amounts higher than the published amount. Following the recommended organization, page limits, spacing, font sizes helps to facilitate the application review process. PDF files make it easier for the system to put together different parts of the application into one application that reviewers can more easily read and follow. The grants.gov submission procedures and tips for applicants in the application package can be extremely helpful for submitting the application in grants.gov. Resources about document accessibility and how to make documents 508 compliant are available at the Department of Education website linked on this slide. Please note that if for any reason an application is submitted more than once and validated more than once, the last application submitted will be considered, and previous applications will be considered duplicates and therefore ineligible. There are two additional reasons why an application may not be eligible. First, all applications received after the published deadline will not be eligible for funding. Second, applications that do not address the priority will also be ineligible for funding. For example, an application proposing to create a locally focused or regionally focused center will not be eligible since that is not the purpose of this priority. Once again, the purpose of this priority is to establish and operate a national center to improve faculty capacity to use educational technology in special education personnel and leadership preparation programs. The center must support faculty at IHEs by improving their knowledge and use of educational technology and their capacity to sustain its use in special education personnel and leadership preparation programs. Thank you for viewing this webinar. As I mentioned at the beginning, this webinar covered highlights of what's contained in the application instructions and the notice inviting applications. If you have additional questions, please contact me, preferably by email at christina.diamond@ed.gov. You can also contact me by phone at 202-245-6723. Have a wonderful day.